Hey guys, I'm Jiraya. This story is all about what if Naruto can use other people's memories. Sometimes a technique can lead to new discoveries, new paths. A chance discovery lets Naruto learn that which he was never taught, using the memories of others to aid his progress. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 49, a Chunin alerted. That was too close. Naruto gasped as he dropped onto one of the sets in his living area, Hinata snuggling up to him. I agree. Jiraya said as he sat opposite Naruto, his facial markings receding back to their normal lines as the two toads dropped off his shoulders and started to look round curiously. Where did that statue come from? Tsunade asked curiously as she and Shizuna laid claim to the third settee, leaving Kakashi to sit next to the toad sage. That was the one preventing Naruto from using the high ration. He could absorb chakra, but couldn't cope with senjutsu. Jiraya said, then he nodded to Hinata. Thanks for pointing him out to me. I wasn't certain which one it was, I thought it was probably Yahiko. Everyone looked at Jiraya and he sighed. I'll be telling sensei about this, but, the 6 on the roof? All were shinobi I've encountered in the past, all were dead and all were being used and controlled by one of my old students, Nagato of Ame, using his dojutsu. The Rinnegan. Kakashi, Tsunade, and Hinata all jolted in shock. I'm missing something. Naruto admitted. Probably better if I provide some background. Jiraya admitted. It was before your birth, Naruto. I was in Ame, helping those allied against Hanzo the Salamander. During my travels, I encountered a trio of orphans with great potential. Konan, Yahiko, and Uzumaki Nagato. Tsunade may remember them, she and Oro were with me when we met them. After we finished our mission, I stayed behind to teach them, make them more effective against Hanzo. Although I was never able to find out which clans, if any, Yahiko and Konan were originally from, I knew that Nagato was an Uzumaki, but that paled compared to his Kekkei Genkei, the Rinnegan. His eyes let him use every element with equal ease and he could understand jutsu with a single glance. I trained them until they were able to defeat one of my Kage Bunshin in battle, then I left them to gather more intel and some reinforcements. I had recruited a dozen shinobi, including Chunin Minato, who had managed to learn the Senja version of the high ration and was in the process of adjusting it to make it his own. We were most of the way there when one of my spies reported that the 3 of them and their allies, the group known as the Red Dawn, had met Hanzo in combat, and had been killed. Obviously your spies were wrong. Tsunade stated in a voice that lacked any condemnation at all. They were partially right. Jiraya admitted. Konan and Nagato still live, but Yahiko did indeed die that day. The Akatsuki seemed to die with him, and so me and my team returned to Konoha, believing that we had failed by not reaching them in time. Jiraya trailed off for a long moment before continuing. Nagato and Konan are still alive, but Nagato is using Yahiko's body like Sasori uses his puppets. More than that, he can see, hear, feel, and use jutsu through he calls them his paths. He himself has taken a new name, one that several of us will recognize. Pain. The one who toppled Hanzo. Kakashi noted. One and the same. Jiraya confirmed grimly. And now he wants to seize all the Jinchuriki. Naruto, my spies haven't reported anything regarding the Biju, but I need you to send a clone with a message to as many of the hidden villages as you can. They need to know that they have to guard their Jinchuriki. Taki'll be a problem. Kakashi mused. They keep their Jinchuriki outside the village, they don't like her at all, they only keep her around because she's a Jinchuriki and therefore a powerful weapon. Jiraya smirked. I think that soon, they'll regret not taking more care of her. Tsunade looked at her teammate, then started to laugh. I'm missing something. Naruto said again. I'll make it your first mission after I have the hat. Tsunade promised, confusing Naruto even more. For now, though, I think I need to get to the tower and talk to sensei again. Coming, Shizuna. Of course, Lady Tsunade. Naruto watched the duo leave. I've definitely missed something. He admitted. Yes, you have. Jiraya laughingly agreed, then he winced. Don't tease the poor boy. Shima scolded, lowering her hand from where she had dope-slapped the sage. Hinata, you have a lovely home here. Thank you, but it's Naruto-kun's home, not mine. Hinata managed. That reminds me. Fukazaku said from just in front of Naruto. Hold out your left arm. Naruto did as the elderly toad asked, then cringed as Fukazaku wrapped his tongue around his wrist. For an instant, the skin covered by the sage toad's tongue seemed to feel like it was burning, then Fukazaku released him, his tongue shrinking as it returned to its proper place. There you go, one unblockable reverse summoning tattoo. Fukazaku declared. Just smear some blood on it and channel chakra and you'll be at Mount Miyabuku, no matter what anyone tries. Thanks. Naruto managed, staring at the mark on the inside of his arm, the blocky kanji abara surrounded by fuinjutsu marks. That will help you, but it only summons you. Fukazaku said. You cannot bring anyone or anything with you should you use it. Jiraya grinned. That did not go as planned. Pain stated as 3 of the paths collected the path which had been transformed into a statue. I was unaware that the Toad Sage could petrify my Preta path. I may need to try and develop a counter for that. The easiest solution is not to let Jiraiya near the Preta path. Itachi suggested as he glanced round at the inn where he had been fighting via his avatar. We need to leave, the local authorities are arriving. Toby can help. A new voice chirped and Itachi barely managed to avoid rolling his eyes. Wow, this place looks all beat up, what did Toby miss? Lord Hokage. Kakashi said as he led the way into the office, holding the door long enough to allow Naruto and Hinata, who were holding hands, to follow him through. Team Hiration reporting for debriefing. Tsunade has been telling me about the mission from her viewpoint, as has Jiraiya. Hiruzen said with a slight smile, then his face shifted into a frown. You can confirm that it was Orochimaru that you encountered. It was. Kakashi responded, one hand stroking the Hitate covering his eye, and Hiruzen nodded in understanding. I have no clue as to how he survived, but it was him. No doubt about it. Damn. Hiruzen cursed and Naruto's eyebrows shot up at the shock of his grandfather figure cursing. How many times must I steel myself to kill him? Now we're here, we'll be able to make it stick, the next time. Jiraiya noted from where he was sprawled along the windowsill. I agree. Tsunade said from behind the second, newer desk in the office, one placed near the side of the room. If Orochimaru returns, we'll make sure that he never leaves. Except that now he's back with the Akatsuki. Jiraiya noted. I've managed to get the full list of members and Orochimaru's nowhere near the strongest. He's not the weakest, but he's not the strongest either. I find myself wondering what he offered them to let him return. Knowledge of my skills. Naruto said. The one you turned into a statue? He was the one blocking my ability to simply teleport out of there. If they can find another to learn that skill, they'll be using it to come after me again, and the next time, they'll be ready for whatever you did. They still have one knowing that skill. Jiraiya sighed. They have Nagato. You are certain it was the Ame orphans? Hiruzen asked and Jiraiya nodded. But, they were all reported dead, or so I recall. I'm checking my reports, but I think that my spies weren't the only Konoha spies in Ame at the time. Jiraiya grumbled. Someone managed to drop a false report into my network, and I really need to find out who. Shimura Danzo stifled a sneeze. Looking round at his subterranean office, he sighed. Dust got everywhere, no matter how many times he ordered his subordinates to clean. So, changing the subject, when are you receiving the hat? Jiraiya asked. Well, by the end of the week, I should have caught up with the basics, so I'll be receiving it then. Tsunade replied, glancing at Hiruzen. And I'll be able to retire, again. Hiruzen chuckled. I don't think any Kage has ever managed to retire twice before. Jiji, what do you plan to do? Naruto asked and Hiruzen chuckled again. Well, for a while, I think I'll enjoy retirement by catching up with my family, then teaching you both a couple of things. After that, maybe I'll take another genin team of my own. See if I can train them up without having them fall apart this time. You know, I learned the guard version of the Hiraishin too after I retired for the first time, just in case one of the three fell ill and your father needed a replacement guardsman. I may be a bit rusty, but I'll be happy to join you on a mission or two to blow the rust off ready for when I get my own team. I'll see what I can find for you, sensei. Tsunade laughed. Hey, Shika, Ino, Koji. Naruto called out as he jogged onto the training ground. Where's Asuma? Over here. Asuma called as he walked into the field from the other side. You got the course set up? Yep. Naruto grinned as the trio of genin all groaned with realization. Just as you wanted. Good. Team 10, head to training ground 14 where one of Naruto's clones will direct you to the starting point for the course. Naruto. You will make your way from marked area to marked area, avoiding or countering the traps that have been set. Naruto recited. Squares marked out in yellow rope are safe points and each has inside it an arrow pointing to the next square. Oh hell. Ino groaned. Tentans told me about those type of courses. Apparently Lee still triggers every single ankle noose. He's taken to carrying a kunai on his belt so he can cut the rope. Naruto shrugged. It's quite impressive, he can start cutting before his other foot is pulled off the ground. It usually ends up with him doing a somersault these days. Let's go. Shikamaru sighed as he walked towards the edge of the clearing in the same manner that a prisoner would walk towards the headsman's block. The sooner we do this, the sooner we get to replace our ruined clothes and get some food. And the sooner you can help me set up Team 9's course, Ino. Naruto called after the departing genin. So, Dad's retiring soon. Asuma said, leaning against a tree as he pulled out a cigarette. I hear he's very interested in teaching you. He's already helping to teach Sasuke, you know. Naruto raised a querying eyebrow at the older jonin. I thought Sasuke was in Anbu. He is, but he found out the truth about his clan's destruction and how his brother saved his life. Should I know this? Heh, you're a Jinchuriki and the son of the fourth. Even if Pops hadn't cleared you to know this, you'd probably have found out soon enough. Sasuke is going through serious therapy between missions. What his brother did to him left some damage that still hasn't healed. On the other hand, he's already completed several missions and, with his Sharingan, is catching up to Kakashi in number of usable jutsu. I heard that he's been learning all the elemental types so that he can actually use his newly copied moves. Naruto nodded slowly. I hope he does well. Back in the academy, I thought of him as a rival, that if I could beat him, people would start to treat me better. Looking back, I can only wonder just what the hell I thought I was thinking back then. Camus above, I was an idiot. Hinata blinked in confusion. Why do I feel the need to give Naruto-kun a really big kiss? Dunno. Anko shrugged, stealing one of the dango sticks from Hinata's plate. They're your feelings. Stop teasing her, Anko. Kurenai sighed, waving to the waiter for another platter of dango. Chapter 50, Training of a Sharingan User. Sasuke looked at the mask that he had been given. Welcome to Anbu, trainee. Okamai said and Sasuke stiffened to attention as the white-coated Anbu commander stepped back, hands vanishing into his sleeves. For the next 2 months, you will undergo training in the ways of Anbu. You will learn to fight like the ninja of old, with blade and poison, stealth, and silence. You hold your new face in your hands, your new name. Uchiha Sasuke is now no longer within Konoha. He has vanished. You will prove yourself worthy of your new name. Okaho. Sasuke slowly lifted his mask up to his face, feeling the seals around the edge react to his chakra, fixing the mask in place. Although the eye holes in the mask should have restricted his vision, the mask was oddly transparent, not impeding his field of view apart from a slight dulling of colors. Experimentally, Sasuke activated his Sharingan and realized that the transparent mask blocked his dojutsu, but he could still use it through the eye holes. Okamai waited for Sasuke to deactivate his blood limit before speaking again. For the next 2 months, there is no Uchiha Sasuke, only Okaho. I understand, Okamai-sama. Sasuke said stiffly and Okamai nodded once. Then I shall leave you. Wait here for the one who will train you in the ways of the Anbu. Okamai vanished without even the swirl of chakra leaves that marked a normal shunshin, and Sasuke gaped at the casual display of skill before collecting himself. His new teacher would be here soon, and he would devote himself to learning everything that he could. His brother had been in Anbu, now he would learn the same lessons that had made him so strong. Less than 5 minutes had passed before a new figure appeared, this time with the characteristic swirling leaves of a Konoha shunshin. Trainee Okaho. Hi. Sasuke responded, stiffening to attention even as he looked at the new person. The man stood taller than him and was wearing a cat-based mask with red lines surrounding the eye holes and green lines above and below them. A sword rose from behind his right shoulder, and Sasuke mentally nodded at the implication that he would learn Kenjutsu as well. My name for now is Tenzo. The man stated. You have been assigned to learn from me. I will do my best to hone you into one of Konoha's blades. You will suffer, you will learn that the true face of Konoha is different from how you think, you may even curse my name as you fall into your bunk. Just be aware that while I like being nice and friendly, I have no problems with ruling with fear if that is what is needed to make you into what Konoha needs. Do you understand? Hi, sensei. Sasuke replied, only for Tenzo to give a sharp shake of his head. I am Tenzo. You are Okaho. Understand? Hi, Tenzo. Good. Tenzo said. Now, follow me. Sasuke followed Tenzo into the darkness. Sasuke blinked in surprise. I do not understand. He admitted. Surely, since I have my Sharingan, it would be more efficient to use it. Yes and no. Tenzo replied. The Sharingan is a powerful tool, but even a simple chakra flash can disable it for several seconds. In addition, the moves that you learn that way can be perfectly repeated only while your Sharingan is active. You would need to practice them without your blood limit active if you were to have a chance of performing them should someone be able to counter your eyes. How many ways do you know to counter my eyes? Sasuke asked. 8 that I can think of immediately. Tenzo stated. Now, try to follow my lead, without using your Sharingan. Sasuke drew his tanto and dropped into the first stance, copying Tenzo's moves. His blade seemed to dance through the air and he felt a rightness about the moves. Excellent. Tenzo said as he sheathed his blade, and Sasuke stared at him. A few more repetitions and you will have mastered the first kata. You seem to be naturally gifted with the sword. Sasuke felt his chest swell with pride at the compliment, a compliment that was delivered based purely on his own actions and not because of his lineage or fame. Sasuke collapsed onto his bunk. Although it had seemed to be less comfortable than the bed in his flat, right now it was the most comfortable surface ever as his exhausted body seemed to mold itself against the firmness of the mattress. A slow-moving hand removed the mask from Sasuke's face and he carefully placed it on the shelf beside the bed before allowing his eyes to close. Even at his most driven, he had never been this tired, but he would succeed. For he was Uchiha Sasuke, the avenger of his clan, and he would prove his worth to the world. Again. Tenzo barked and Sasuke turned to face the course once more. The Anbu course was deceptively simple, but every inch of it was trapped or set up to cause whoever was trying to use it to fail. Taking a deep breath, Sasuke leapt to the first platform, landing on the edge rather than the middle since the last time he had done so, the apparently solid surface had split and dumped him into a pit filled with icy water. Report. Okamai said as he materialized beside Tenzo. He's learning fast. Tenzo said. He isn't as naturally skilled as his brother, but he makes up for it with determination and study. Good. Okamai noted. And his loyalty rating? Middle to high. Tenzo stated. It will have to do. Okamai finally said as, on the far side of the course Sasuke managed to do a spinning leap that let him deflect the incoming shuriken. Before he can take the final oath, he needs to learn the truth about that night. He will react badly. Tenzo stated. He used Tsukiyomi on Okaho. Yamanaka is still working on undoing it, but it will take as long as it takes. Okamai said philosophically. Do what you can to aid him. I feel that Okaho will be a great asset to Konoha once he finishes his training. Tenzo nodded as Okamai vanished once more. Sasuke opened his eyes and Yamanaka Inoichi gasped at the sight. The past few weeks of dawn to dusk training in Anbu had caused Sasuke's eyes to evolve to the full trio of Tomo each, but now, they were different. The formerly red eyes now looked like red flowers unfolding against a black background. Itachi! Sasuke whispered. You were crying. Your eyes. Inoichi managed, but Sasuke ignored his comment, still caught up in the memory that had been blocked by the genjutsu that Itachi had used to overwrite it. Who was that masked man? Sasuke mused. And why did Itachi, why? I think you need to see the Hokage. Inoichi decided. Hiruzen looked up as three figures entered his office. Inoichi led the way, followed by Okaho with Okamai bringing up the rear. The Anbu commander peeled off and moved to one corner where he seemed to fade into the background. Okaho, you may unmask. Hiruzen said, and Sasuke removed the stoat mask. Lord Hokage. He began. I have activated my Mangekyo. Hiruzen hailed sharply. How? May I answer that? Inoichi asked. We finally broke the genjutsu that Itachi had used on Sasuke during the event. The memory it had been blocking indicated the situation back then was rather different from what we had been told. Hiruzen nodded and motioned for the duo to sit, allowing Okamai to remain inconspicuous. Sasuke. Hiruzen began. I was unaware of this genjutsu, but I knew that the events of that night were not as clear as you believed. How much do you know of the events leading up to it? I knew that my father was rather tense about something, as were some of the others, but I didn't know what. Sasuke admitted, and Hiruzen sighed. There is no easy way to say this, Sasuke, but your father and the Uchiha elders were planning a coup. They were unsatisfied with the clan's position in Konoha and sought to take control. Sasuke glanced at Okamai, who nodded in confirmation of Hiruzen's statement. When he turned back, his face was pale with shock. But, the other villages. Had the coup gone ahead, Konoha would undoubtedly have followed as Ashikaga. Hiruzen stated. Kumo and Iwa had heard that the tensions in Konoha were rising and had prepared their forces, massing them ready to invade as soon as we turned upon ourselves. Kiri would have followed them, as would the smaller villages of Omegakur, Tanagakur, Takigakur, and Kusagakur. Suna, we had no way of knowing which way Suna would go with the odds stacked against us like that. At best, they would have remained neutral. What was father thinking? Sasuke hissed. I had decided to defuse the situation by declaring that I was going to train your brother as my apprentice and the future Godaime when the massacre happened. Hiruzen continued. I have very strong suspicions as to who forged the orders that set your brother against his clan, but even now, I have not been able to find a single shred of hard evidence to support those suspicions. If I had, that person would now be dead by my hand, or by yours. As it is, he is currently politically untouchable and is skilled enough that you would stand no chance at all against him. Sasuke gave a jerky nod, his eyes almost glowing with suppressed rage. When Itachi discovered the orders hadn't been from my hand, he suggested that he should take the blame. He left that night carrying the stigma of being the killer of the Uchiha clan, but his loyalty to Konoha never wavered. He still reports regularly via Jiraya's network, using his Pocky addiction as a cover to hand his reports to the shopkeepers who work as agents of the Toad Sage. Even though he knows that most of the shinobi of Konoha would kill him because of his actions, he remains loyal. Itachi has successfully infiltrated a group known as the Akatsuki, an organization based in Omegakur. He has sent us descriptions of all the members and their skill sets. While he is one of the stronger members, he is not the strongest. That would be their leader, a man known only as Lord Pain, a man with 6 bodies that act as one. He still serves Konoha. Sasuke managed, and Hiruzen nodded gently. He does. All he has ever asked was that you be kept as safe as possible without endangering your growth as a shinobi of Konoha. It is my belief that he plans to have you kill him in battle so that you will emerge as the last Uchiha and, in the eyes of the public, a true hero who will re-establish the Uchiha clan and raise it to prominence, this time as a true and integral part of Konoha. Sasuke looked down at his clenched fists for a long moment, every line of his body showing the tense anger he was keeping restrained by only his pure willpower. Then he looked up. Can he return? Hiruzen blinked at the unexpected question. What? He was trying to protect me, from the man in the spiral mask. Sasuke explained. He called him Madara. Uchiha Madara. Hiruzen gasped. But how? He died at the Valley of the End. His body was never recovered. Okamai stated from his corner. He could have faked his death, things like that have been known to happen. This changes things. Hiruzen mused. Why did Itachi not report that to me? Perhaps he thought you knew. Sasuke offered and Hiruzen slumped in his chair. I have more to atone for than I thought. He sighed, then his gaze sharpened as he rose from behind the desk. Sasuke, I heard that your primary element is lightning. I don't think Kakashi will have taught you much beyond ensuring you have a good grounding in the basics, but there are several techniques that I can give you. I believe that you have enough chakra at least to learn the Raiden Bunshin. Chapter 51, Taking the Hat. Tsunade sagged onto the surprisingly comfortable settee and glanced out of the window. Only her experience let her hide her shock as she recognized the valley, and her gaze quickly took in the rest of the room with its distinctive fireplace and half-floor above. It was Minato's old house, one where she had visited to check over Kushina after Minato had rescued her. The house where she and her then-fiancé Dan had eaten their final meal together before the mission that had taken Dan away from her, a meal personally cooked by then-Jonin Namikaze Minato. Were shinobi I've encountered in the past, all were dead and all were being used and controlled by one of my old students, Nagato of Ame, using his dojutsu. The Rinnegan. Jiraya stated, causing Tsunade to focus on her teammate as he explained how he had met them, and how his spies had relayed word of their deaths. Obviously your spies were wrong. Tsunade mused, mentally trying to figure out who would have profited from Hanzo remaining in power. For a long moment, she allowed herself to lose the thread of the conversation, trusting her well-trained memory to record it in case she needed to quote from it later. Then a familiar word brought her back. Jinchuriki. Naruto, my spies haven't reported anything regarding the Biju, but I need you to send a clone with a message to as many of the hidden villages as you can. They need to know that they have to guard their Jinchuriki. Jiraya said. Taki'll be a problem. Kakashi mused. They keep their Jinchuriki outside the village, they don't like her at all, they only keep her around because she's a Jinchuriki and therefore a powerful weapon. Jiraya smirked. I think that soon, they'll regret not taking more care of her. Jiraya smirked. Tsunade looked at her teammate, then started to laugh as she followed his logic and deduced the plan that he had probably developed. I'm missing something. Naruto said, causing Tsunade's amusement to deepen. I'll make it your first mission after I have the hat. Tsunade promised Jiraya for now, though, I think I need to get to the tower and talk to Sensei again. Coming, Shizune. Of course, Lady Tsunade. Tsunade nodded to the others before stepping out through the door and walking towards the path that would take them to the bottom of the Hokage monument, Shizune half scurrying along behind her. Shizune, she said as she slowed slightly to allow her apprentice, and most trusted friend, to catch up to her, do you think I've made the right choice? I think you'll do a great job, my lady. Shizune replied. Not what I asked. Tsunade deadpanned. Please, tell me. Do you think I've chosen correctly? Shizune blinked a couple of times as she ordered her thoughts, and Tsunade remained silent, refusing to try and hurry her apprentice's response. I think that you have made the right choice, my lady. Shizune finally admitted. We've been moving from place to place for many years. Running away, you mean? Tsunade snorted. Sensei was very nice to avoid pointing that out to me, which actually made it more obvious. Shizune's diplomatic silence caused Tsunade to chuckle mirthlessly. Shizune, do you want to know how he persuaded me to come back? If you don't mind, my lady. Shizune managed. He asked me if I could recommend either Danzo or Jiraya as his replacements. Tsunade barked with laughter before sobering. Then he asked me if I was willing to give myself a chance to heal or if I preferred bleeding to death from my emotional wounds. Hiruzen-sama does have a way with words. Shizune admitted. The old bastard does indeed. Tsunade grumbled in unwilling admiration. It'll be interesting to get an in-depth look at how he thinks. My lady. He's going to have to fully explain his plans and policies to me so that I can adjust or continue them as I see fit. Tsunade explained as they briefly emerged into a clearing and followed the path out of it again. I'll finally have a chance to see just what did we see back there. Shizune blinked as Tsunade reversed course and half-jogged back to the clearing. What's going on? She asked the paint-spattered genin on the other side of the clearing. It is a most youthful training session. The one clad in green shouted back as he helped to untie the pink-haired kunoichi from the ropes that had bound her to a tree. We are halfway around the course and are still going strong. And I'm going to kill Naruto for doing this to me. The kunoichi snarled as she dropped to the ground and started retying the rags of her former clothing in an attempt to retain her modesty. You look like you fell victim to one of the traps from the book written by Uchiha Madara. Shizune stated, trying not to burst out laughing. The one that uses 3 lemons in a paper clip. Yosh, that was 2 traps ago. The green-clad teenager replied with a wide grin. Truly, Naruto-kun shows extreme youthfulness in the art of traps. Now, let us move on, yoink. Tsunade watched in disbelief as the energetic teen triggered an ankle noose trap and managed to slice through it with a kunai even before his other foot had fully left the ground. What the hell's been going on in the years I've been away? She muttered as the trio of genin vanished into the forest. Ah, the trap courses. Hiruzen smiled after Tsunade had finished describing what she had seen. It sounds like Team 9 is being given a run for their money by young Naruto, although he did mention that he was going to be teaching Ino how to set up the courses after she finished the one he had set up for her. That's normal. Tsunade asked in disbelief and Hiruzen nodded. It's a fairly regular thing these days. We have several aspiring trap masters in amongst our genin. You've already met Naruto and you've still to see Ino's work while Hyuga Neji is becoming something of an expert in detecting and disassembling traps in his own right. In fact, the Hyuga clan have recently instituted their own trap-making and trap-breaking courses. I see I'm going to have to do a lot of studying. Tsunade sighed and Hiruzen motioned towards the second desk in the office, one which had been set at right angles to his own. For the next few days, that'll be your desk as I bring you up to speed. He said. Once you take the hat, we'll switch so that this desk will be yours. Remind me to show you how to open the secret drawers. Thanks, sensei. Tsunade smiled as she moved to take the seat behind her desk, then she looked at her assistant. Shizune, I want you to head to the hospital. Find out what's going on there and report back. Yes, my lady. Shizune said with a bow before seeming to vanish. So. Hiruzen said, pulling out a sheet of paper. Here we are, Form 451,979, Confirmation of Field Promotion in Peacetime. I think that before you become Hokage, you should at least be promoted from Chunin. Tsunade blinked several times. I'd forgotten that I was still technically a Chunin. You did depart just before you could take the Jonin exam. Hiruzen reminded her. We both know that skill and rank aren't always the same thing. Speaking of which, what rank do you think young Shizune would be if I had her tested? I trained her as well as I could. Tsunade half-sighed, glancing at her apprentice. I did my best to bring her up to my level as much as possible, so. Takubitsu Jonin at the very least. I'll have her undergo the testing tomorrow. Hiruzen smiled at his surprised former student. I'm sure that she'll pass with flying colors. Now, one more thing. Yes, sensei. Hiruzen made a small hand signal and the door opened, revealing a tall blonde man. I think you may remember as Yamanaka Inoichi. Hiruzen said. I think you need to get over that phobia of yours if you are to let an old man like me retire. Yes, sensei. Tsunade sighed as she turned to face the obviously amused clan head. Don't worry. Inoichi said reassuringly. You're not the first non-Yamanaka clan member I've helped. He's helping the young Uchiha as well. Hiruzen added. You're in safe hands. And don't worry about the cost. Inoichi continued. Konoha's got this one. And most of your wage as Hokage can go towards paying off all the debts you've run up. Hiruzen finished with an overly innocent expression, earning a glare from Tsunade. We'll do a full debrief after your preliminary session with Inoichi, but for now, did anything happen after I came back? Hiruzen stared in shock at Tsunade. You're certain? It was Orochimaru. Tsunade confirmed. Or, I remember him saying something about looking into cloning just before he fled Konoha. Maybe it was a clone of him, or he sent a clone of him to attack Konoha. That makes a disturbing amount of sense. Hiruzen sighed, then he looked up as the office door opened. Lord Hokage. Kakashi said as he led the way into the office, holding the door long enough to allow Naruto and Hinata, who were holding hands, to follow him through. Team Hiration reporting for debriefing. My lady. Shizune queried as Tsunade looked round the newly emptied Hokage mansion. We're going to need some furniture. Indeed we are, Shizune. Tsunade agreed as she looked through one of the doors to see a large library, its shelves stacked high with scrolls and books. Looks like they only took the Sarutobi stuff. Shizune, make a note to organize a team to go to the Senju mansion and grab all the furniture that's still usable. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Tsunade carefully closed the door and leaned against the frame. I still can't believe that I'm doing this. She sighed. Am I caught in genjutsu or something? With your chakra control, that would be difficult. Shizune pointed out and Tsunade nodded. It'll be odd, not running from the debt collectors, you know, there is one bright point to this. My lady. Tsunade grinned almost fearfully. You can finally find a good man and have some kids for there, and Tsunade, to spoil rotten. Shizune blushed and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Already got someone in mind, have you? Lady Tsunade. Tsunade stepped forwards, feeling the official robes weighing heavily on her shoulders as Hiruzen spoke, using the Fuinjutsu inscribed into the balcony and shade pillars to amplify and project his voice, making it audible to everyone who was watching from below. And as I retire, once more, Hiruzen said, causing a ripple of laughter from the crowd, I do so in the knowledge that once again, I do so in favor of someone who will perform the task placed upon them with the greatness and determination that Konoha Gakure deserves. People of Konoha, may I present the Go-Daime Hokage. Senju Tsunade. As her sensei finished his speech, Tsunade stepped forwards into the almost solid cheering from the assembled citizens and shinobi. Glancing sideways, she saw Shizune smiling with pride at her, then she turned her attention back to her sensei, who had removed the head of Kage and was holding it out for her to take. I, Senju Tsunade, student of the Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, do hereby accept the position of Go-Daime Hokage of Konoha Gakure. Tsunade declaimed, the words coming easily to her after the several hours of tutelage under Hiruzen's gaze. May the will of fire burn brightly in the leaf. As she finished, she donned the hat, then raised one clenched fist in the old symbol of victorious triumph. Let the will of fire burn in us all. She shouted. For Konoha! For Konoha! The massed response came and Tsunade smiled as she looked out over the village hidden in the leaves, the village that was now hers to lead, hers to guide and hers to protect. Dan. She whispered. I'll fulfill your dream for you. I promise that I'll make you proud. The cheering grew louder as Hiruzen stepped back, leaving her at the front of the balcony, a symbol of the new dawn for the leaf. Chapter 52, a Chunin and a lucky one. And as I retire, once more, Hiruzen said from the balcony, causing Hinata to giggle as she leaned into Naruto's hug, I do so in the knowledge that once again, I do so in favor of someone who will perform the task placed upon them with the greatness and determination that Konoha Gakure deserves. People of Konoha, may I present the Go-Daime Hokage. Senju Tsunade. I'm glad she's going through with it. Naruto whispered as Tsunade accepted the hat. Hopefully, I'll be the next to wear it. I'm sure you will. Hinata replied quietly. I, Senju Tsunade, student of the Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, do hereby accept the position of Go-Daime Hokage of Konoha Gakure. Tsunade said, the words echoing across the village, may the will of fire burn brightly in the leaf. Tsunade donned the hat, then raised one fist. Let the will of fire burn in us all. She shouted. For Konoha! For Konoha! The crowd shouted, Naruto and Hinata joining in as the feeling of triumph and victory seemed to almost solidify around them. Team Hiration, reporting for mission. Kakashi stated as he stepped into the office where, in a reversal of the previous time they had been there. Tsunade was sat behind the Hokage's desk while Hiruzen was seated behind the secondary desk. Kakashi, Naruto, Hinata. Tsunade said with a nod of greeting. Are you ready for your mission? Naruto nodded eagerly and Tsunade's smile turned slightly feral. As you know, Akatsuki are starting to move to secure the Jinchuriki. She began. Naruto, thanks for using your clones to send the messages to Kiri, Kumo, and Suna. Jiraya has arranged for Iwa to be warned, since your clones would be attacked on sight if they went there, which leaves Takigakuer. The ones who don't like their Jinchuriki. Naruto recalled. Correct. Tsunade agreed with a wicked smirk. As such, we are going to give them what they want. We are going to take their Jinchuriki away from them, or more properly, we are reclaiming their Biju since they don't appreciate it. The fact that we'll gain one of their kunoichi as well is just a bonus. So the mission is to sneak into the land of cliffs, make our way to the edge of the village hidden in the waterfall, locate their Jinchuriki and return with it. Kakashi stated, then he frowned. Which one is it? The Nanabi, the seven-tailed beetle. Hiruzen supplied, causing both Kakashi and Hinata to turn to look at Naruto. Naruto, can we confer with? Naruto closed his eyes for a moment, then made a hand seal that Tsunade didn't recognize. Biju Bunshin. A cloud of smoke dissipated to reveal a waist-high reddish fox with multiple tails. For a long moment, both Tsunade and Hiruzen stared at the creature before slowly sinking back into their chairs. Kurama, may I introduce you to the Godaime Hokage Senju Tsunade and the retired Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen? Naruto said formally. Tsunade-sama, Jiji, may I introduce Itsutsuki Kurama, one of the 9 living children of Itsutsuki Hagoromo, also known as the Sage of the Six Paths. Huh. Tsunade finally managed as she stared at Kurama, who responded by puffing out his chest and raising his snout. I think they're overwhelmed with my magnifice, oh yeah, right it there. Naruto hid a smile as Hinata used the comb she had pulled out of a pocket to start combing Kurama's fur, taking advantage of the action to gently massage the top of his head with the fingers of her free hand. Within seconds, Kurama was lying on the ground in a furry pile of pleasure with Hinata kneeling beside him, brushing his fur so it lay neatly, using gentle motions to tease out the few knots. You have about 100 years to stop doing that. Kurama manged. But you can take longer if you think that you need to. Kakashi shook his head in disbelief. Naruto, that is perhaps one of the most disturbing sights I have ever seen. You think that's bad? Naruto laughed. When Hanabi saw him for the first time, it took an hour to persuade her to stop hugging him and rubbing his belly. So, the Nanabi. Hiruzen prompted. Kome. Kurama sat up. She's my favorite sibling, why are you discussing her? She isn't being appreciated by the village that holds her and Akatsuki is trying to collect the Biju for bad reasons of their own. Tsunade supplied, causing Kurama to growl. If she comes here, you'll treat her right. I'll teach her Jinchuriki the Biju Bunshin so that she can manifest independently, assuming her seal lets her. If it doesn't, I'll take her to see your uncle. Naruto offered and Kurama nodded. I'll help. Whatever you need as long as we get her here. Perhaps we can persuade that bug clan of yours to watch over her. The Aburame. Hiruzen mused. Tsunade, once they've left, I'll go and talk to Shivi about this. Plausible deniability and all that. Tsunade nodded, her eyes still transfixed by the sight of Kurama once again flopping onto the floor under Hinata's gentle ministrations. You know, Dad left one of his tags near Taki. Naruto mused. I can sense it. That should cut down on travel time. Kakashi mused approvingly. And I was wondering how many other tags he left in storage. Naruto continued, earning a contemplative look from Jiraya. If we can double tag the locations that are important, we could hide one, say, under an etched stone so it looks like the pattern on the stone is the target used for the technique. Maybe include a couple of seals that glow when chakra is applied, but do nothing else. And thus people will try to decode the etchings, not realizing that they have no meaning at all, thus causing them to waste time and energy that they could have spent doing something we didn't like. Jiraiya smirked. And a second tag nearby means that if they set up a trap, we can simply pop up nearby and take it apart before they figure out what just happened. I'd recommend doing that only at key points. Kakashi cautioned. We do need to keep a reserve of tags, after all. At least until you learn how to duplicate them. We'll discuss this after the mission. Jiraya decided. No point getting distracted now. All ready? Kakashi asked as Hinata and Naruto stepped out of Naruto's house. Packed for a full week. Naruto stated. I know it's meant to be a quick in and out, but you never know. I took the liberty of sending a clone ahead to secure the area. Since it hasn't dispelled, I know it's safe. Okay. Kakashi said slowly. Next time, though, check with me first. I am the team leader for a reason. Sorry. Naruto apologized and Kakashi shrugged. I admit that I was planning for you to do something similar, so no foul this time. Next time, though, wait for permission before doing scouting. If someone spotted your clone and your clone didn't notice, or was disrupted in a way that prevented the memory transfer, we could end up going into an ambush that wouldn't have been there otherwise. Naruto nodded, his face pale as he thought about how things could have gone wrong. So, if you can send some clones to secure our entry point, we can go. Kakashi added and Naruto created a dozen clones, 6 of whom grabbed the others before they all vanished. Huh, Kakashi commented. Have the deployment chakra cost, I see. Hadn't really noticed that during the last mission. Not bad. Thanks. Naruto said, then he cocked his head. 1 clone dispelled to send the all clear, the others are on lookout duty. Then let's go. Kakashi said, moving so that he could press his fingers against Naruto's and Hinata's in preparation for the Hiraishin jump. As soon as the world blinked, the trio spun outwards, standing back to back as they waited. All clear. Hinata said as she deactivated her Byakugan. No one within range. I don't suppose that you've learned how to sense chakra yet, have you? Kakashi asked, causing Naruto to shake his head. Okay. Kuchi Yasei no Jutsu. A small cloud of smoke announced the arrival of a dog wearing a blue sleeveless coat. Pakun, we need to find a Jinchuriki. Kakashi stated. There's one just behind you. Pakun responded and Kakashi sighed. Naruto, I know. I mean a different one. Female, holds the Nanabi. Forget it. Kurama stated as he emerged from a cloud of smoke. That dog will just slow us down. I can sense her, she's over that way. That's not nice. Pakun grumbled. Do you make a habit of stopping others from working? Well, I can see you two are getting along wonderfully, but we really need to get moving. Kakashi sighed. Pakun, do you want to stay or return? I'll stay. Pakun grumped. You don't summon us enough, you know. Pick me up. Kakashi plucked Pakun from the ground and placed him on his shoulder, then looked round. What? You have a summoning contract as well? Naruto asked in shock. Meh, why so surprised? Kakashi drawled as he turned to lead the way. You have toads, I have a pack of dogs. Besides, quite a few of the Jonin have contracts. Like Guy and his turtles. Naruto nodded, earning a considering glance from Kakashi. He doesn't use them much. He uses them more now. Naruto shot back. At least, when I relayed the message from Ningen to him. Kakashi opened his mouth, paused, and then closed it again, obviously deciding not to continue that line of questioning. Still clear. Hinata reported, the veins around her eyes shrinking back to their normal sizes. She's staying still. Kurama reported. Where's this village that hates her? Over that way. Kakashi said, pointing slightly to the left. About 3 miles in a straight line. We'll need to bear right soon to avoid their normal patrols. Okay. Kurama growled. But the sooner we get her back to Konoha, the better. I cannot believe I just said that. Even think you deserve being treated like a human. A male voice sneered as the group carefully crept to the top of the rise, using the bushes that grew there as cover. You're nothing more than a weapon for the village, and if you try to act up again, I'll do worse than use the pain seal on you. Now pick yourself up and get back to that hole of yours. We're done for today. The man with dark, spiky hair held back by a pale green/brown bandana kicked the green-haired girl who was lying on the ground, then turned and stalked off. That bastard. Kurama growled. Now you know why I hate most humans. That was Suien. Kakashi mused. He's a Sutin user, a very powerful one. The girl, she must be the Jinchuriki. Naruto mused as the girl in question slowly pulled herself onto her hands and knees, then she managed to stand up, wincing as she clutched at her ribs where she had been kicked. Kurama nodded as the girl started to move towards the tree line. Suien's vanished into a waterfall, a big one. Hinata reported quietly from her position behind them. He mentioned a pain seal. Naruto growled. If they've put that on her, there's probably also a tracking seal at least. We may need Jiraya here. I'm getting pretty good, but he's the expert. Agreed. Kakashi said, his uncovered eye gazing almost sightlessly at the now empty clearing. Hinata, anyone else around? Clear, sensei. Hinata replied almost at once. Kurama, if you'd be so kind as to lead us to your sister and her host. My pleasure. Kurama half growled. While Zetsu and Tobio try to locate the Sanbei, I have a mission for you. Pain stated. Of course, Lord Pain. Orochimaru bowed. How may we serve? Pain's eyes narrowed slightly. We have confirmed the location of the Nanabe, it is being held outside Takigakure. You and Shin will travel there and secure it. The host must be kept alive, but beyond that, I leave the mission entirely to your discretion. Be aware, though, that the Takigakure elders insisted on placing both a pain seal and a tracking seal on the host. The pain seal is a standard Uzumaki prisoner control seal, which I know how to activate. Orochimaru smirked. This mission should be fairly easy. Do not let your overconfidence lead you into another loss. Pain warned and Orochimaru's eye twitched at the reminder of his failed attack on Konoha. Lord Pain, when the time comes to secure the Ichibe, may I assist? It will be a strong blow to Suna. I shall consider it. Pain stated. You may leave. As you command, Lord Pain. Chapter 53, a Chunin observed. How do we do this? Naruto asked almost half an hour later as the quartet sat in the small den that Kakashi had created via judicious use of Doton Jutsu. Hinata shrugged to indicate that she didn't know while Kakashi stroked his chin in thought. Suien has a tendency to linger to gloat over his enemies after defeating them, so there's every chance he'll return briefly before dusk. Kakashi finally said. Somehow, we need to contact the Jinchuriki, check that she wants to leave Taki. She does. Kurama stated. I've been talking to Kome. Everyone looked at the large fox curiously and he glanced round. What? Kome? But, how? Kakashi asked. We biju shere. I think you'd call it a kekai genkai. Kurama finally answered after a long pause. Any of us can talk with the others, we just need to concentrate to do so. It's easier when we're in a host, it's one of the reasons I could cope with being inside those Uzumakis even though they never bothered to try and talk to me. Sorry. Naruto muttered. Yeah, you're my first host who actually bothered to speak to me. Kurama half growled, then he shook himself. Sorry. I think I need to have another talk with Uncle Gamma. Once this is over, I'll take you to him. Naruto promised and Kurama smiled briefly at him. Thanks. Anyway, we can talk to each other regardless of the distance between us, although since we're siblings, we usually don't want to. Family arguments and all that. Makes sense. Kakashi agreed as Hinata began stroking Kurama's fur to help him calm down. So, what did you and Kome decide to do? Simple, Kome sent Fu here to meet you. A new voice said from the entrance. I have her in sight, master. Shin declared, causing Orochimaru to give him a quizzical look. Shin, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're still in the southern bastion, correct? Shin nodded, not bothering to look around at the giant cavern they were standing in, its sides dotted with doorways and shafts, some of which were barred. We are. And aside from all of my followers, the Sound 4 and those odd young clones you finally started to grow in the lab, it is just us two here, correct? As always, my master. Shin agreed while the newest member of the Sound 4, a woman named Gurren, glowered at him. Then, how exactly do you have our target in sight? Shin motioned with one hand and a nearby rock seemed to ripple, turning into a small creature with a solitary outsized Sharingan. Moving on four stumpy legs, the dome-like entity waddled towards them. You actually managed to create them. Orochimaru gasped, bending down to scoop up the creature. Amazing. Thank you, master. Shin replied as Orochimaru examined the creature with all the joy of a young child given a new toy. I only have a dozen of them at the moment, and given our mission, I chose to have most of them placed near where the Jinchuriki are known to live. They seem to use an integrated genjutsu to hide. Orochimaru mused, turning the creature back upright and placing it gently on the ground, allowing it to waddle back to its former location. Magnificent. Kabuto's aid was quite useful in overcoming several problems I had encountered in trying to create them. Shin demurred. He is rather gifted, isn't he? Orochimaru agreed. So, any other tricks you have with these? Yes. Shin smirked. I can use them as a means of transportation. Orochimaru cocked an eyebrow at him. So, you stand on them as they move? Shin's smirk widened. No, master. You remember how Obito can teleport? Orochimaru stared at him for a long moment, then his expression turned into a grin as predatory as Shin's. Shin, don't tell anyone about that. He commanded, then he looked round at his four guards. The same goes for you as well. Yeah, like we want to end up like Tayuya. The six-armed one grumbled almost inaudibly. Exactly. Orochimaru purred. Fu finished chattering to Kurama and looked around at her audience. Sorry, Fu didn't mean to ignore you. Fu was just happy to meet Komei's big brother. I think we got that. Naruto managed, pulling his shattered concentration back together. So, since Kurama's told you why we're here, what's your decision? Fu's face fell. Fu would love to come with you, but Fu can't. She sighed. But... Naruto started before his eyes widened. The seal that Suien mentioned. It's more than a control seal, isn't it? Fu nodded slowly and Kakashi leaned forwards. Fu, I've studied under the fourth Hokage and his sensei, I'm more than adequate with Fuinjutsu. Naruto isn't as advanced, but he understands it almost intuitively. If you let us see the seal that Suien uses to control you, we may be able to find a way to negate it. Negate it? Orochimaru asked curiously and Shin nodded, ignoring the Sound 4 who had taken position in the trees around them with the exception of Gurren, who had created a crystal dome for them to talk in, a dome that shielded them from any sensor nin. They think there's a tracking seal on the Jinchuriki, possibly linked to a suicide one, so if she gets beyond a certain distance from the one controlling her, the seal activates and kills her. Meaning that the Nanabe would take several years to reform, placing the plan on hold until it does. Orochimaru nodded in understanding. Well, far be it for little old me to interrupt them while they're removing that seal. Shin stared at him in confusion. We're not striking while they're distracted, master. And have the Takigaku or shinobi track us down in order to reclaim their weapon. Orochimaru countered. There is a reason that Takigaku has official treaties with all of the Great Five, Shin. They may not have many shinobi, but should they choose to use the substance known as Hero's Water, a Taki Genin can defeat even a Takubutsu Jonin. Imagine what a Taki Jonin could do. Shin blinked, then shivered slightly. No, we're waiting for them to remove the seal, then we'll swoop in and leave with her, using one of your remote viewing creatures. What do you call them, anyway? I hadn't really considered it. Shin admitted after several moments of thought. Watchers. As good a name as any, I suppose. Orochimaru sighed. Anyway, we use your watchers to escape, leaving the Konoha shinobi unable to follow us and in position to take the wrath of the Taki shinobi. An excellent plan, master. Shin said and Orochimaru smirked. I know, Shin. I know. Hinata looked on the verge of tears as she stared at the seal that had been literally carved into Fu's upper back. This isn't good. Naruto finally stated. If it was applied normally, I could counter it, but by actually cutting it like that, damn it. Fu was unconscious when they did it. Fu offered, glancing at Hinata. Fu doesn't remember more than waking up with a very sore back. Yeah. Naruto grumbled, glancing at Kakashi. Okay, I see two choices here. Jiraya. Or Uncle Gamma. Kurama finished. It'll take a lot of chakra to summon him, and if we try to take Fu there, the seal will activate since it's out of range. Naruto sighed. Arrow Sennin. Arrow Sennin. Kakashi agreed, his voice lacking any humor. Can you fetch him? He'll need time to prepare. Naruto replied. Fu. I hate to do this, but it's getting dark and the person who can help you will need light to work in. Fu understands. Fu said as she accepted her top from Hinata and shrugged it on, then pulled her red backpack over. Fu will come back tomorrow, yes. We'll have a full meal waiting for you. Naruto said as he pulled out a small scroll and unrolled it. Fu's eyes widened as several small loaves of bread appeared. Here, these rolls contain sausage baked into them. Thank you. Fu smiled, grabbing the rolls. Fu and Kome will see you tomorrow. Well, looks like we're camping out. Orochimaru sighed. Gurren, shatter this dome, we're moving further from Taki so that their patrols won't stumble on us. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Shin, after this mission, we'll need more watchers. One for every one of my covered outposts at the very least. Yes, Master. A flash of light illuminated the subterranean hideout and announced the arrival of Konoha's premier Fuinjutsu practitioner. Not a bad setup. He mused, looking around critically. However, I think I can improve it, especially if I'm to perform another of my sealing miracles. We need to remain covered. Kakashi noted and Jiraya gave him a gimlet stare. Sorry. While we're waiting, Jiraya said as he unsealed his supplies, Sensei asked you to be ready in case he needs you. He shouldn't, but just in case. Naruto cocked an inquisitive eyebrow and Jiraiya gave a small chuckle. He and his son are finally getting their family relationship sorted out, by going on a mission along with the rest of Asuma's team. They're escorting the famous actress Fujikaze Yuki to the Land of Snow to film her latest Princess Gale movie. Where is the Land of Snow? Naruto wondered and Jiraiya slapped a map down. Just there. He pointed. Once we're done here and Sensei sends word that they've finished filming, I'm hiring you to send me to Sensei's side. I really have to talk to Yuki about making an Icha-Icha movie and it'll let him teach you a few new tricks. I liked her films. Hinata spoke up from the corner where she was preparing breakfast, the smoke from the small fire vanishing into a chimney that Kakashi had created using a Doton Jutsu. Can I come? I volunteer to help. Kakashi interjected with one of his eye smiles. This means we can use the guard version, which takes less chakra. Jiraiya blinked, then frowned at Kakashi. Takes less chakra per person using it. The Jonin corrected himself. What does? Fu asked from the entrance, then she stared at the Toad Sage. Fu wants to know who the old man is. Old man. Jiraiya mourned, tears seeming to flow down his cheeks. I'm in the prime of my life. Face it, Arrow Sennin, you're old. Naruto said and Jiraiya dismissed the tear genjutsu in favor of glaring at his godson. Not old. Vote. Hinata raised her hand, as did Kakashi. Traitors. Jiraiya grumped as Fu giggled. Alright, once you've had breakfast, let me look at the seal and I'll see what I can do. Something's happening. Shin said quietly, causing the other five to look at him curiously. Kakashi's moved out of their hideout and is on guard. I'll have to have my watcher back away from him. If he uses his Sharingan, he'll be able to see through the watcher's genjutsu. Interesting that they have Kakashi on lookout duty. Orochimaru mused. Obviously, Naruto is far more skilled in Fuinjutsu than I thought. Fortunately, I seriously doubt that he'll be anywhere near Jiraya's level. The lines of ink that covered Fu's back, limbs and 3/4 of the cavern started to glow and writhe as Jiraiya, Shima, and Fukazaku knelt around Fu, concentrating hard. The now glowing runes flowed inwards, briefly covering Fu's back and the small blank scroll that lay unrolled from her shoulders to her knees, then Fu gasped in pain as the scroll darkened with a complex pattern of reddish ink forming on it. Done. Fukazaku gasped and Jiraya reached out to snag the scroll, tossing it into the air with a flick of the wrist that caused it to roll up. As the scroll arced through the air, all eyes were on Fu's back, which was bereft of any trace of the seal that had once been carved into her flesh. Naruto, take this scroll and have a clone place it in Fu's den. Jiraya ordered, only to see the scroll snapped out of the air by Kurama. I'll do it. The nine-tailed kitsune said around the scroll clamped in his jaws. I can find the den easily, then I'll simply dispel and Naruto can resummon me. Kurama didn't wait for a reply, but he simply vanished out of the cave. Fu is free. Apparently so. Kakashi said from the entrance. So, a little while to recover, then will you join us in Konoha? Fu will. Looks like they're done, master. Shin reported. A clone of the cube just exited the cave holding an oddly glowing scroll. Really? How odd. Well, since they've sorted out the problem, let's go and say hello. Orochimaru said, motioning for Gurren to shatter the barrier and the sound four to form up. After all, it is the neighborly thing to do. This is not good. Toby agrees. That's it for part 7. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.